Alright, so we're here with David Icke, author, researcher, speaker, and today I would just like to get right into the meat and potatoes of what I'd like to talk to you about, and that is the topic of Satanism and spiritual possession. I'm curious as to your opinions on that.
Well, how long you got? He says to me, be 5 minutes, and he asked me about Satanism. Okay. We do breakfast. You staying overnight, are you?
Yeah.
There's so much to talk about in terms of Satanism.
Well, in particular, the ability of these entities to influence humanity.
Well, it's simple, really. We look out of our eyes and we think that we're looking and seeing everything in the space that we're looking at. We're not. We're looking at a tiny, tiny frequency range called visible light. And we see the body and you know, we think it's physical and solid. It's not. It's a hologram. You know, you've only got to look at quantum physics to realize that this world is not solid. There's reasons why we decode it that way, but it's not solid. And while we see the body within this five-sense reality, actually overshadowing the body is a series of electromagnetic energy fields. People call it the auric field. And these entities are, in effect, electromagnetic in nature. And they operate outside of human sight, just as the human aura does for most people, though some psychic people can see the colors of it, and technology can pick it up now. But mostly we don't see it. We don't see the human aura, but we know it's there. You can technologically measure it. And what these entities do, because they're electromagnetic, they lock in to us at that electromagnetic level. And this is what possession is. They don't possess the body. They possess the electromagnetic field, and through that they possess the actions and perceptions of the body. And so you can have people, for instance, who are locked into this possession, who will act quite normal and all the rest of it, and you think, oh, he's a nice bloke and all the rest of it. And then this possessing entity will then, at another time, usually at night, but not necessarily always, will impose itself upon that person's reality, and they will transform in their perceptions of everything. You know, I've talked to Satanists and people like that, and victims of Satanists, and they talk about how, you know, people children have grown up into adults when I spoke to them, but children brought up in satanic families, and they describe how during the day their parents, who are absolutely rabid practicing Satanists, are pillars of society. They're in this and they're in that, and everyone thinks, oh yes, they're a pillar of society, and then at night they're completely transformed. As one woman said in an interview on the Oprah Winfrey show, funnily enough, talking about this, is that at night what was good during the day was bad, what was bad during the day was good. Everything transformed, and this is when these entities impose themselves upon the possessed person. And when they're doing satanic rituals, see, everything is, in our reality, is a vibration, it's a frequency. And if you're going to possess someone, you have to make a frequency connection to them. Otherwise, it's like two radio stations. They pass, but they don't connect. They're not influenced. And when they're doing the rituals, and the reason they do ancient rituals today is the ancient rituals were designed to create an energetic environment in which this energetic connection could take place that we call possession. And if they were designed eons ago to do that, well, they ain't going to change them in the modern world, are they? Because that's what they do, these rituals, and that's why they're repeating the same ones now. And there are particular bloodlines that have been bred from the ancient world, hybrid bloodlines, you might call them, which are specifically designed for possession. You know, if you can design a body stroke energy field that is as close as possible within this reality to the possessing entity, then those bloodlines become the most easily and most powerfully possessible. They're just vehicles for this possessing entity. And they are the ones throughout history that have turned up as the kings, the queens. This is the divine right to rule. You know, the special bloodline. What is this special bloodline? They say, you know, I have a right to rule because of my bloodline, because of my genetic heritage and all the rest of it. It's because they're these particular bloodlines, massively possessible bloodlines. And they were the kings and the queens and the aristocracy. And then when the people started rebelling against this over-in-your-face dictatorship by royal bloodline and inheritance, then these bloodlines moved into the dark suit professions of politics, of banking, of corporation leaders, etc., media owners, big pharma cartel, the pharmaceutical cartel, the biotech cartel. These bloodlines control all of those things. And they are all working in an orchestrated way on behalf of the possessing entities to enslave humanity on behalf of the possessing entities. Now, these entities feed off human fear. They feed off low vibrational human emotion and all aspects of fear, anxiety, depression, frustration. And so these bloodlines in positions of power through the centuries have created a society which is a planetary factory floor of fear, anxiety, worry, and conflict, because they are wars. Think about how much fear is generated in a world war. How much fear is generated when you pepper bomb cities of civilians like Tripoli, in Tripoli. And this is what they're doing. The world is not being run. People say, well, what? The world's being run on behalf of the elite few, not the people. Well, the elite few are the possessed bloodlines, and the massive people are the target population of the entities that are doing the possessing. And when they talk in the ancient world about making sacrifices to the gods, these entities they're talking about. Because when you are doing a sacrifice, obviously the sacrifice person is built up through the ritual into a state of absolute terror. And these entities are feeding off that terror. This is the sacrifice to the gods. And if you look at what they say in the ancient world, that the most prized sacrifice was a young virgin. Young virgin is code for children. And this brings us to the massive connection between paedophilia and Satanism, and why in my research over a quarter of a century I have so often, in researching major politicians and business leaders and bankers, etc., I've found that they are both paedophiles and Satanists. And there's a reason for that, because the reason that the young virgin, the children, were prized possession is because the energy of children before puberty, when a change takes place, we see a hormonal change, but that's just an expression of an energetic change that takes place. They want that energy of children before that puberty change happens, and therefore they target children. And what is happening, it sounds horrible, but let's understand the world. We might make a few horrible things disappear. When the paedophile, the possessed paedophile, is having sex with a child, the paedophile is the conduit for the possessing entity to draw off that child's energy. And this is why you find this in the so-called upper echelons of society, the cesspit levels, really, you find the correlation between people in power and paedophilia is so massive compared with the general population. It's because they are conduits for this, for drawing off this energy. And another thing that happens with Satanism and satanic ritual is that when you do rituals, because everything is energy, the energy you create in the ritual is affecting the energy field, the Earth's energy field. It's affecting its frequency state, it's affecting the information in it, whether it's very pleasant or whether it's horrible. You know, when you go into an old church or an old house or an old mansion or something, and you'll go, oh, it's horrible in here, oh, I don't like it here, what's gone on here? What you're feeling is the energy created by the massively negative things that have happened there, many times ritualistic things. But when you keep doing these rituals in the same place over and over again, what you do is you so impregnate the energy field with that ritualistic energy that you start to thin out the frequency difference between this reality at that point and the reality where the entities actually operate from. And because of this thinning out, and I talk to many Satanists who've seen this happen, these entities can come through that thinned out gateway, if you like, and manifest in our reality within the ritual energy, not outside of it. And some of them, a lot of them, take a reptilian form when you actually see them, and a lot of them take other forms. But the reptilian thing seems to be the dominant one. And the other thing is, when people are talking about this, these entities, they're actually mentioned all over the ancient world. You know, the ancient Gnostics called them the archons, and described them in exactly the terms I've just talked about. You've got the Islamic jinn, from where we get genie. The jinn are described in the same way as the Gnostics describe the archons. Then you've got the Christian demons, which are the same entities that are the jinn and are the archons. And in Central America, the shaman there, they talk about these entities in names like the flyers, and they describe them in exactly the same terms. One of the greatest ways to suppress human understanding is to suppress their sense of the possible by suppressing their access to the information about what's possible. You've got all this evidence in the ancient world and the modern world that this is real. People's sense of the possible, instantly reflex action dismisses it. Why? Because it's so different to what they believe is happening. And we've got to open our minds to the truth if we are going to be able to take the action to bring an end to this, which we can, but not in ignorance of it and not in denial of it. We're not going to do that.
Something I've been fascinated about and would like to get your views on is, you mentioned about the voices that you've heard, particularly on ayahuasca trips, and I've found that many people in different areas of the world at different times in the world have heard similar messages, and there's an amazing continuity to it. And I'm curious of, in your opinion, where all of this is coming from.
Well, you see, we talk about hearing voices. We're not hearing voices. We're decoding energy. We're decoding information. For instance, I'm sitting here now and I'm talking to you, but I ain't speaking words to you in the space between us. What I'm doing is I'm vibrating an information field with my vocal cords, which goes to your ears, which is decoded into electrical information, which is sent to your brain in an electrical form, and it decodes the information field into words that you hear. Right? Now, if you follow that sequence, there's no one in mainstream science can deny that that's what happens. And yet the same people in mainstream science will deny that people hear voices. And yet, what is happening, Mr. Scientific Professor Man, is that communications in a vibrational information field form are being projected into our awareness, into our consciousness, into our mind, and the brain is and the brain is decoding that information into words in exactly the same way that it is doing as I'm talking to you. So it's not voices we're hearing, it's projecting information which is then decoded into words. And when I first kind of opened my mind to all this a long time ago now, 25 years nearly, I went into a psychic's front room after I'd read her book, because strange things were happening to me. And I read in her book that when other levels of reality, other awareness, entities, whatever you want to talk about, is trying to lock into you, you sometimes feel like a spider's web on your face, like a cobweb. And when I was sitting in her front room, and the energy changed in the room, I felt very, very clearly like a cobweb on my face. And I'm thinking, whoa, that's what I read in her book. And then you think, well, what's all that about? Well, I'll tell you what it's about. What is happening when we feel these phenomena, and we feel like, you know, the hair standing up on our head and the back of the neck? It's an electromagnetic field. What they do is they connect in to you. You know, you can connect into your electromagnetic field from external sources to possess you, or to communicate with you in a benevolent way. And so that connection takes place, and as it's taking place, you are being engulfed in an electromagnetic field. So you feel like a spider's web on your face, because that's what you feel when that happens, and, or the hairs on the back of your neck will stand up. People go into sports stadiums where the people are generating a lot of excitement. That excitement generates electromagnetic energy. And so people say, oh God, the atmosphere was so fantastic, the hairs on my neck were standing up. Same thing, same thing. So these communications, when you understand how reality works, are not paranormal. They're how we should be interacting with infinite reality. They're only paranormal to those that have a paranormal understanding of reality, i.e. mainstream science.
And my last question for you, and as a journalist, it's my job to ask the difficult questions, so I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate, so to speak.
This is the devil's advocate. We're talking about Satanism here.
Yeah.
Right.
So in
God's advocate.
My understanding is sometimes...
No, not God's advocate, no.
These entities may operate through deception, and I'm curious if yourself have ever considered that even David Icke could possibly have been deceived by these frequencies or by these energies.
Well, that would mean I've been deceived into, if you accept these entities exist, that means I've been deceived into exposing the fact that these entities exist when the vast majority of people would not believe they exist. So, you know, I have occasionally have it said to me, you're just a double agent for the people you're exposing. And I'm thinking, yeah, okay, let's just work that through, shall we? Okay, I'm in the Illuminati and we're having a meeting years and years and years ago, and we're saying what we want is total secrecy about what we're doing so no one will ever stop us. Right. So what we're going to do is we're going to give David the job of going out and telling everybody we exist and exposing the whole thing. Oh yeah, well, if I'm a double agent, I'm a bad double agent. But you get this ludicrous stuff every now and again, not often, but you know, people just, well, you know, there's notes of strangers folk, as we say in England. And it's the same way, you know, I mean, would I be deceived into exposing something that people don't think exists? Well, if people believe that, they'll have to believe that's a possibility. But all I can say is, if you look at my track record in books I wrote years ago and things I said years ago, and they're now happening. And that's not because I'm a prophet or a genius, it's because if you can uncover what the projected agenda is and no one intervenes to stop it, you can predict the future. The idea of what I'm doing and what so many others are now doing is to make sure that we stop predicting the future accurately, and by alerting people to what the projected future is, we make that future not happen. What I want to do is not be proved right in what I predict the way the world's going. I want to be proved wrong in the way that people saw it and stopped it. That's what I want to do. And all you can do every day is do what you believe is right, and that's what I do, and what will be will be.
Fascinating interview. Thank you for your time.
Thanks very much, mate. Pleasure.